Um, I mean, I agree with you. The problem is that when you've tried both ways,
Mm.
and you end up being in a situation where what you said, dark hearts. I've never heard that before, but when dark heart works, what do? And then when it's true what you said about like when a child get beat up or not, they get used to it. That's why I have many tricks, you know. That's my response to that. That's why I have many tricks, and I always look for more. And it's true. I'm being very honest. Way
That's
too.
dark arts, though. Those tricks
That's
are
dark
dark
arts.
arts. That's
That's why I have
exactly why it's dark arts.
That's why I have many tricks. But my point is that um, if I
I love
was
that.
being heard on the first time, I wouldn't have to use those tricks.
Mm.
And sometimes when you're in a situation where you're so sad because you want to be heard, you will try the good ways. I think that most people will start with the good ways, but then when you realize that the good way doesn't work, um, you use those tips that you got in those safe space, you know, from women that's been married 40, 45 years. And you're like, okay, this is working. And I do agree with you all, but those things only happen when, both individual are willing to make those efforts. And everybody is not blessed, to have to have such partner, like in my case, there's things that I used to do way earlier in my relationship that I don't do anymore because I was blessed that, my partner is trying. Some people are not blessed like that, right? And when you talked about the emotion part, yeah, it's true because when you are emotionally attached, you're more involved, right? But the problem is that, for example, for me, as I said, I'm very talkative person, right? So my first instinct would be to talk to you. But if you marry the brand of men that they don't listen, too much talking, they don't listen. It's like gibberish to them, right? So I realized that me being quiet hold more voices than me talking too much with my partner or whoever I was with before. It just worked out better for me. Um, but I would say there's stages to this, right? If I'm being quiet with you and you ignore me, then we go to level one, and then you have a trick. Then you do level two. You right? There's level to this. You could stop me before we get to level one, and you would have dinner. You know. So I feel like there's a level where the person knows, he knows, right? But he wants to keep pushing limits, right? And the advantage of being with somebody with a long time is that you know the tricks, you know where to, you apply yourself to learn your person, right? So I might cook your favorite meal and drop it at your best friend or at your brother. I'm not saying it that way, Sean, but what I'm trying to say is that I may cook your favorite meal, you will smell it, but you won't eat it. There's ways. There's ways. Anyway, I'm done. I wasn't saying it that way. Please, nobody thinks that I said it that way.
No, we know
But
we
I
meant.
mean
But
that.
that's still do you know that's a form of torture? You know that, right?
But you can stop the torture. It's only torture because you didn't want to stop it. I said there's level to it. You could,
But do
you
you know
could,
when
you knew,
people hold people
you know something
hostage
is going to
and torture
happen.
them, they tell them the same thing. If you just relent and yield to me, then you could be free.
But
It still doesn't mean
I
that it's
want you
not
to hear
torture.
me. I want
Hmm?
you to hear me.
I
I want
know,
you to hear me. That's all I want.
it's the tactics, though. It's the tactics, and it's training somebody to be used to a certain level of abuse in order to get what you want from them. So you start off being right about not being heard, but then you do go down a dark path about the tactics that you implore to get them to hear you. So that's what we're questioning. I don't think you're wrong. I think you want to establish a way where you can be heard healthily, and that your husband can understand that, hey, listen, when you don't listen to me, it hurts me, and
Mm-hmm.
I respect you and I want you to hear me. Now, I've done some things in the past to try to get your attention, but I don't want to have to go to that. I want to be able to just say, hey, look, this is bothering me. Maybe we can have a better time to talk about it when you're able to talk or want to talk. But there's something I want to talk to you about. I think those are like we want to have better healthy dynamic, because if that's always going to be your go-to, and I'm using your words, if you got to go through tricks to be heard, eventually it's going to get very frustrating to you, and for him it's going to it's causing a dynamic. Now I don't know him to say what dynamic it's going to be, but I can say that you want to ultimately be free to communicate and find the ways to communicate effectively without having to go down a path of tricking him to hear you.
I hear you, Sean, but what you don't understand is that if the person is talkative and talk to you and the person is not hearing you, that's when the person, and I'm not saying me because
Okay.
I have friends, but if I was talkative but you didn't hear me, this is when I will say to you all men that say y'all are the leader of the family, you're the leader, you're the king, right? At this point, you know what I want from you. You just choose to ignore me. So I would say that you like torture. You like that, right? Because you could stop it. You have the power to stop it, but you're not stopping it. Because you wanna push yourself to get used to those type of things that you will never get used, because there's a lot of tricks out there, and that's why there's some women that are married 45, 50 years and stuff like that. Of course, as I said, there's level to this, right? But I
Okay.
feel like when you're in a relationship with somebody, after 2, 3 years, the man knows. He knows. He just don't want to do it. He's being stubborn. That's when he use tricks.
So I mean, I get you. Listen, I get you. Listen, you know your husband better than we do.
I
I'm
mean, he's not
saying
my
that.
husband personally. Well, a little
Oh
bit,
yeah. Oh, sorry.
but
Whoever we're talking about,
but yeah,
apologies. Yeah,
you're
you're
right.
right.
You're
You didn't
right.
say it.
A little bit of that.
If we talk about the hypothetical and say in this instance that I do understand where you're coming from. Again, we're not dissimilar. This is what I'm saying. So I think me, you, Sean, are having the same conversation because we're not dissimilar. Um, and so I do get it. The tricks are killing it. I can't lie to you. I love the tricks. They are. It's fun, but it reminds me now of it reminds me of something that I used to do, and that's why I'm like, yeah, this doesn't end well, because the reality is, while you think he's not listening, he is paying attention. Number one, when you don't get your way, what do you do? And both men and women do this. We build up a sheet that eventually we look back on and we're like, yeah, you've been moving mad. Number two, if the person consistently puts themselves in a position where they have to be tricked into listening, they've also got an unhealthy way of communicating. In fact, they've got a toxic way of communicating because they want the torture in order to listen to what you got to say, which means that you're also toxic because you have to go into a toxic mode before you can actually get him to listen. So we've actually got a toxic relationship going on. So somebody has to take the first step to come out of toxicity. I'm just going to be honest with you. Someone's got to come out. Someone's got to take the first step and come out of the cycle to teach the other person that I won't go in toxicity when I don't get my way. And this is where, for me personally, this is where the teachings of Christianity come in real quick, right? That love, when it says, heap hot coals on your enemy's head by showing them love. In the moment where you expect, and this is, I'll give you an example. I remember, anybody who's a Christian will know this, right? You've done something wrong. You've sinned. You've done the maddest thing. You know what? You've been bad. You go to God and you're expecting God to kind of lambast you, because that's what you get from your parents. You do something wrong. You go to school. You do something wrong. They lambast you. But yet, when you go to God, you get this different type of behavior. Like it's an embrace. It's love. It's like, no, come. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. I'm not here to be your punisher. What happens to you when you come into that space is at first it's tough because it's like that's not what human beings are used to doing. Human beings will punish you when you do wrong, which is what you're talking about, which is the reality of life, right? There is punishment to consequences to action. So I agree with you. But in order for love to fester, to grow, and to continue, someone has to elevate the level. And the level is that even when you do me dirty in that moment, if I'm in a marriage per se, not necessarily anybody, but if I'm in a marriage per se, um, you know, on a marriage per se, in this moment, when I feel that you're not listening to me, I don't think you even realize, Sam, if when a person's not listening to you, are you triggered? Because if your response is a trigger response, then you're both in the same boat. Whilst you're looking at him thinking he's not listening, you're also getting triggered, and your response is going to elicit a trigger response. So both of you end up in this cyclical cycle of behavior where you think that you're the one that's right. But like Sean said, when you start, I always say this, you start off right, but what you do can end up making you wrong. And a lot of times when I was doing like coaching for couples and stuff, when I see them come together, right? It's so funny when they do this thing. One person will come with a whole story about the person did X, Y, Z, and then I'll be like, all right, great, fantastic. I hear you. I hear you. And then I'll be like, so what happens when you in this moment? What happens to you? And they explain the story. I'll be like, so you don't hear that you getting triggered, and now your response, they're responding to your response. It's not to let them off the hook. It's to say that the person you're in a relationship with, hypothetically, they love you, but they're also responding to an energy. Something that, Sam, you do something really interesting. I don't think you realize. You just something really, really interesting, right? My trigger isn't this, but I'm saying if somebody is triggered by this, when you're passionate, your energy vibrates, you become animated, gesticulation, but you're in a good mood. So this is not you. But if you're in a bad mood, I can imagine if you're hurt, how the energy will go shoo, and it'll be like you will become very animated, hands all over the place. And to someone else who may be triggered, who may see something, has witnessed something in the past that might be a little bit different, they will respond to you differently now. So how they should respond to you is, oh no, Sam, you're offended. I'm sorry. I didn't see that. But they might be thinking, the disrespect. How are you gonna run your hand in my face and tell me that you're hurt and think I'm gonna listen? I'm not listening to you. I'll watch my football and enjoy. So I'm not saying again, it depends. It depends on the other, it depends on both of you. And whilst we're looking at the other person thinking that they are the issue, oftentimes we have to change how we respond in order for them to respond in a different manner. You know, that's why I said to my YouTube audience, I'm not going to get frustrated and angry now when you don't see what I'm seeing, because all it does is it incites you. Then I get pissed off and I get incited by your incitement, and it becomes a vicious cycle. No, I'm going to keep myself very, very calm. You can you can be uncomposed all you want, and if you get out of pocket, that's you. But I'm gonna stay composed and chill, because when I get out of pocket, I know that it's going to end in a cycle that I'm not going to able to get to the end that I want, which is I want you to hear me out. I want you to listen. So sometimes we just need to change us and how we respond in order for them to respond. We're waiting for them to respond. No, we need to change us, and then they will have to respond. And if the person then you also realize, well, if I've changed and I'm calm in my response and I keep it calm for a period of time, then you have to ask yourself a serious question. If you're unwilling to change, what journey are we really on? Right? What journey are we really on? And that's why I'm saying that the dark arts is not sustainable, because eventually you will run out of dark arts tricks. And two, you will have to elevate to a point that you can't elevate without it becoming mad. So at a point in time, it will get there. So I'm saying that, listen, if you believe, if someone believes they have an actual partner that is willing to learn and it's just a bit difficult, let's look at ourselves first and see how am I responding to their situation. Have I looked at avenues in terms of how I communicate that may be triggering? And have I asked them when they're not in the state of not listening to me, when we are having a decent conversation, have I asked them, what makes you listen to me? What makes it easier for you to hear me out? What are the factors that stop you from listening to me? Because if I don't know that, I don't know what the factors are, what stop you from listening to me. Have I actually done all the work that I need to do? No, because I don't know what triggers you. Go on, Sam. Jump in, and I'm gonna get other people in. Go for it, Sam.
I wanted to say that I agree with everything that you said, and I love the advices that you gave. Just disclaimer, you see my smile here, just because I just read the comment. Now that I know how to read the comments, this is not tricks that I would use in very serious situation. FYI, you know what I mean? Like, I felt, as I was saying, there's level to this, and I do not advise to do the things that I do because everybody is not the same. But I also want to say that, and y'all gonna be mad at me. I call them tricks, but just in the context of what I'm talking about, it's not necessarily bad, because one trick that I do have is that sometimes when I want to be heard, I do cook my husband's favorite meal just so that he can hear me, right? So in the context of the discussion, I'm talking about it a certain way, but please, people, don't take it, like that I would use those tricks in every situation. And as I also was mentioning, I've been with my husband a long time. And as I said, I was blessed that we're not in the same stage that we were, 2 year in the relationship. I've been with him 10 years. So, this is not the same person. I don't have to use the same tricks, but do the same thing. Let's not say tricks, because when I use tricks, I think that people might feel like I'm, trying to like bamboozle him. No, what I'm trying to say is do certain things. But it's true. What you're saying is true, Kojo. I've had instances where instead of like, do the silent treatment, I had to do the total opposite. And maybe I need to do more of that, of what you're saying. Maybe I need to cook more meals when I want to be heard. I don't know. That's it.
No, I hear you. Listen, and again, I appreciate your honesty, because I think a lot of people may not realize that they even do similar, but will never be able to admit it. I think that's even that one's they're not self aware to even understand that. So the fact you were able to tell us that that's been your thought in the past, we appreciate it, because then we can have good dialogue and conversation. Like I said, you always take conversation great. So me, I've not got a problem. You know what I'm saying? So me, I'll listen to you. So I don't want any tricks. But let me get three of my panelists on as well to the conversation as well. It's been good. Hey Dahlia, hey Elsie, hey Andrea as well. I know some people got some stories to tell us as well. So, man, good conversation so far. Dahlia, go first. I know you've been here for a little while, so talk to me. What's your thoughts and feelings? What you hearing? What you seeing? What you saying?
Man, you kind of blew me away with that story, Sammy. I'm not gonna lie. It's sorry, it's just your story was very entertaining to me. I'm sure it wasn't to you at the time, but I relate to you because dismissal is also my trigger. I can't stand it because, to me, in my mind, and I've done a lot of work on this, to me, dismissal is telling me that my words to you are not important, therefore I am not important. And in my mind, that reads as disrespect. It's like, that's not gonna work for me. And you're gonna feel that. Now, I don't have many tricks. I'm starting to feel like, was I supposed to get a whole bag of tricks? But I do yell, and I'm trying to work on that, because that's also not beneficial and it hurts my throat. I'm not a good yeller. So, but yeah, I understand what you're saying. And ironically, I do think that also relates to safe spaces, just speaking on that, because if you feel like you're not being heard, how can you have a safe space with your husband? And if he feels like every time that he's not listening to you, you are going to immediately go to really a method of manipulation, then it's also like, well, I can't find you a safe space either. And so it just does damages to both of you guys. And I think that's probably something that I can take with me for my future relationship, is to try to speak in love. So yeah, that's what I've just been thinking about over the last few minutes on this.
just to tap into what you just said, I want to just maybe you can expand on that, because I think that's what
Mhm.
Sammy was kind of saying, and I didn't ask her to expand, which would have been really, really good. You said, how did you read the dismissal?
I said that, to me, if you are dismissing my words, it means you don't care about my words, which means that you don't care about me or what I have to say. And if you don't care about me, that reads as disrespect to me. It's one and the same to me. And that
Fantastic.
that hurts me in my core.
What's your base go-to reaction when you're at that point, when disrespect is now what you're feeling?
It depends on who's doing it. If it's somebody who is not a friend or a family member, I'm very curt and short.